I never thought someone could make me feel seen, until she whispered, "You're the one thing I can't stay away from." The story opens on a seemingly ordinary day, a place where the male narrator might not expect anything remarkable to happen, perhaps a quiet cafe, a rain-soaked street, or a small local bookstore. He notices her almost by accident, but there is something about her presence that stops him in his tracks. She exudes a quiet confidence, moving through the space with grace, yet there is a vulnerability in the way her eyes linger on her surroundings, the way she pauses before picking up a book or ordering a coffee. Their first conversation is brief, possibly a polite exchange about something mundane, a spilled coffee, a shared laugh over a mutual observation, or a casual compliment. But in that brief interaction, the narrator senses depth. She is not just beautiful, but emotionally layered. Her words carry weight, her pauses feel intentional, as though she is carefully choosing what to reveal. He finds himself hanging on her every phrase, noticing subtle inflections in her voice that suggest both confidence and caution. Sensory-rich details, the scent of rain on asphalt or the soft aroma of freshly brewed coffee fills the air, grounding the scene and making her presence feel tangible. The sunlight streams in through a nearby window, brushing her hair with warmth and illuminating the delicate curve of her smile. Her hands, graceful and expressive, move naturally as she gestures, each motion conveys more than her words could. The narrator notices the way her fingers linger on a book cover or a cup, a slight hesitation that hints at a contemplative mind. He senses a warmth that seems to radiate from her, not just physical, but emotional, a subtle comfort that makes him unconsciously lean slightly closer, though they remain socially distant. Emotional goals, for the narrator: curiosity, fascination, a mixture of nervousness and magnetic pull. A is aware of her effect on him but doesn't fully understand it yet. For the audience, build suspense and empathy. The viewers should feel the same intrigue and magnetic tension he feels, rooting for the connection to develop. For the woman, she remains slightly enigmatic, confident but quietly aware of the narrator's gaze, hinting at mutual curiosity without overt acknowledgement. Narrative tip for YouTube script: keep the first interaction visually simple but emotionally charged. Focus on fleeting glances, almost accidental touches, and subtle body language. Use internal narration to convey the male narrator's thoughts, the quiet wonder, the intrigue, and the magnetic pull, without rushing into romantic gestures. Introduce small, relatable details that viewers can connect with, like noticing someone's laugh, the way they tuck their hair behind their ear, or the warmth of their smile in passing. Goal: build emotional intimacy gradually, showing how curiosity grows into recognition and comfort. This is the stage where the audience begins to sense that their connection is more than chance. Subtle, slow-burning tension starts to weave into their interactions. Narrative progression: after their first encounter, the male narrator cannot shake the memory of her presence lingers in his mind like a quiet echo. Days later, they meet again by coincidence, perhaps at the same cafe, a bookstore aisle, or a park bench. This time, their conversation is slightly longer. Maybe she laughs at the same small joke, or they exchange a comment about a shared observation. The rhythm of the moment feels natural, unforced. There is no rush, no urgency. They are simply two people discovering each other in small, meaningful increments. The male narrator notices that she remembers tiny details about him: the book he held last time, the way he stirred his coffee, a casual comment he made. This recognition feels intimate without words, a bridge forming between them through observation and shared moments. It's in the pauses, the smiles that linger a beat too long, the almost imperceptible tilt of her head when she listens closely, that the slow emotional connection begins to solidify. Sensory-rich details: their fingers might brush briefly while reaching for the same book or sharing a small object. It is fleeting, almost accidental, yet sends a warm ripple through him, making him acutely aware of her proximity. Her laughter carries a soft, musical quality, not loud, but resonant, making the quiet space feel alive. He notices how it brightens her eyes, the curve of her cheekbones, the subtle shift in her posture as she relaxes around him. The scent of her perfume or the faint smell of fresh rain on her coat lingers in the air, mingling with the ambient sounds of chatter, rustling pages, or clinking cups, making him consciously aware of the layers of her presence. The warmth of her gaze, not a direct, romantic stare yet, but steady and attentive, gives him the comforting sense of being seen, recognized, and understood without needing to explain himself. Emotional goals: for the narrator, fascination deepens into comfort. He begins to crave the small, everyday moments with her, noticing her laugh, her expressions, her subtle gestures. There is both excitement and hesitancy, a delicate balancing act between desire and respect. For the audience, the viewers feel the slow, magnetic pull of mutual recognition. They sense the quiet intimacy in gestures, glances, and shared silences, reinforcing the subtlety of the romance. For the woman, she is similarly aware of him, intrigued by his attentiveness, and starts to show small signs of trust, sharing a detail about her day, letting her laughter linger, or leaning slightly closer during conversation. Narrative tip for YouTube script: emphasize the small moments, accidental touches, brief shared glances, and soft smiles that speak volumes. Use inner narration to show the male narrator's quiet amazement at her complexity, without making it melodramatic. Layer sensory details, sounds, smells, textures, to make the audience feel fully immersed in their growing connection. After several small encounters, the male narrator notices a subtle shift in her demeanor. She seems more willing to linger in his presence, yet there is an unspoken hesitation in her movements and words, a quiet barrier she hasn't yet crossed. This scene might occur during a private, low-stakes moment, sharing a quiet table in a cafe, walking through a park in late afternoon, or sitting side by side on a bench as the sun begins to dip. Something happens, perhaps she confides a personal struggle, a fleeting worry about her day, or a minor disappointment that caught her off guard. She speaks softly, almost hesitantly, testing whether he will listen without judgment. The male narrator responds with sincere attentiveness, not trying to fix anything, but simply offering presence. His quiet understanding creates a safe emotional space, and she begins to trust him in small, meaningful ways. Sensory-rich details: when she reaches for her coffee cup, her hand brushes against his. It is brief, almost accidental, but he feels the warmth and slight tremor in her fingers. This small contact sends an electric thrill through him, yet it is tender, safe, and human. Her voice carries subtle layers, a sigh before speaking, a pause mid-sentence, the gentle inflection that betrays both strength and vulnerability. He notices these delicate shifts, committing them to memory as if cataloging her emotional texture. Their proximity allows him to sense her presence fully, the faint scent of her perfume mixing with the rich aroma of the cafe, the soft rustle of her clothing when she shifts closer, the quiet rhythm of her breathing as she speaks. When she looks at him directly, there's a momentary openness in her eyes, a fleeting invitation to step closer emotionally. A sense is the trust forming, fragile yet undeniable. Emotional goals: for the narrator, this is a turning point in his emotional journey. His initial curiosity transforms into care and protectiveness, as he experiences the deep satisfaction of being trusted. He learns to respond with patience and empathy, appreciating her vulnerability rather than rushing intimacy. For the audience, the viewers feel the growing bond in a visceral way. They understand the stakes, the tenderness is accompanied by hesitation, making the story feel authentic and human. The slow build of trust intensifies engagement and emotional investment. For the woman, she begins to lower her walls, testing the safety of emotional closeness. Her hesitation and small gestures of trust create suspense, drawing the audience into her internal conflict, a desire for connection tempered by caution. Narrative tip for YouTube script: focus on micro-interactions, a hand brushing another, a shared glance, a pause before words are spoken. These small moments carry emotional weight. Use internal narration to highlight the male character's growing awareness of her complexity and the quiet joy of witnessing her vulnerability. Layer sensory details to immerse viewers: scents, textures, sounds, and the tactile warmth of presence reinforce intimacy. By now, the male narrator and the woman have shared multiple encounters, each leaving a lingering impression. They recognize each other in public spaces, their eyes seeking one another across a room, a street, or even a quiet cafe corner. There is a magnetic pull neither can ignore, yet both hold themselves back, aware of societal expectations, age difference, or personal uncertainty. A casual conversation might now be loaded with unspoken meaning. She laughs slightly longer than necessary, her gaze following him with subtle attentiveness. He catches himself smiling at the curve of her lips or the way her fingers play with a loose strand of hair. This is small, intimate observations become the language of their mutual awareness, each pause, glance, or brush of hands thick with potential. Sensory-rich details: a hand might graze a shoulder while passing a shared object, sending a soft thrill of warmth through him. The contact is fleeting, almost accidental, but charged with subtle electricity. He notices the texture of her coat as she adjusts it, the delicate scent of her perfume mixing with the crisp outdoor air, lingering just long enough to draw his attention again. The soft sound of her laughter, a melodic contrast to the surrounding noise, makes his chest tighten slightly, a physical reaction to the emotional pull she now has over him. Their eyes meet across a room. He sees a flicker of hesitation in her pupils, a silent acknowledgement of the mutual attraction that neither dares to speak aloud. Emotional goals. For the narrator, he becomes intensely aware of his own feelings, desire, admiration, and a protective instinct, but also of the need for patience. He notices her in ways he never noticed anyone else, from the way her eyes light up when engaged in conversation to the subtle pauses in her speech. For the audience, the viewers feel the tension in each glance, each fleeting touch. The restraint adds to the emotional pull, making the slow-burn romance more compelling and relatable. For the woman, she senses his attentiveness and quiet admiration, stirring curiosity and emotional responsiveness. Her hesitations, small, careful movements, or a slight pullback in response to proximity, heighten the stakes, making every subtle connection meaningful. Narrative tip for YouTube script: focus on subtle physical cues, brief touches, hand brushes, leaning slightly closer or away. These are the visual shorthand for attraction without overt action. Inner narration is key. Show the male narrator's growing awareness, his excitement tempered by caution, and his analysis of every small gesture she makes. Build suspense through silence, pauses, and unspoken communication. The audience should feel the unarticulated tension as almost a character itself. After weeks of subtle glances, lingering touches, and shared moments, the male narrator and the woman find themselves alone in a quiet, intimate setting. Perhaps it is a park in the soft glow of twilight, a cozy corner of a cafe after closing, or a rain-dappled street where the world feels paused. Everything else fades into the background, the sounds of passing cars, the rustle of leaves, or the distant chatter become a gentle soundtrack to a moment that feels suspended in time. She speaks first, quietly, almost hesitantly. Her words are carefully chosen, not rehearsed, carrying the weight of vulnerability. "You're the one thing I can't stay away from," she admits, her voice low and steady but tinged with the tremor of emotion she is trying to conceal. He feels a rush of warmth and disbelief, a mix of relief and awe. The confession validates everything he has been feeling silently, and yet it also introduces a new layer of complexity, the awareness that she has been navigating her own fears and desires just as cautiously as he has. Sensory-rich details. Her hand rests lightly on his forearm as he speaks, and he feels the pulse of her heartbeat, a gentle, grounding rhythm that mirrors the emotional vulnerability in the air. Her gaze holds his in a way that is unflinching yet tender, as though she is allowing him to see a side of her she usually keeps hidden. The warmth in her eyes contrasts with the cool evening light, creating a sensation of intimacy that seeps into his chest. The subtle scent of her hair or perfume mingles with the evening breeze, amplifying the sensation of closeness and presence. Their small gestures, the way he leans slightly closer to hear her, the way she shifts ever so slightly toward him, reinforce connection without crossing boundaries, keeping the moment tender and YouTube safe. Emotional goals. For the narrator, this confession is both a release and a revelation. His silent longing finds a voice through hers, and he experiences a profound sense of emotional fulfillment. Yet there is still hesitation, the need to honor her pace and the awareness of the slow, careful journey they have taken. For the audience, viewers feel the emotional high of the story. The tension that has been simmering through parts 1-4 now finds resonance, and the subtle, heartfelt confession provides a satisfying emotional payoff. For the woman, her vulnerability is transformative. By speaking her feelings aloud, she crosses a threshold, showing trust and inviting reciprocal closeness. The audience sees her as confident yet deeply human, balancing desire and restraint. Narrative tip for YouTube script: focus on micro-interactions, the pulse under her fingertips, the trembling in her voice, the shared silence that lingers after the confession. Use inner narration to convey the male narrator's awe, his careful joy, and the emotional impact of hearing what he has longed to hear. Layer sensory details, sounds, textures, smells, the quality of light, to make the confession feel vivid and immersive for the audience. After her confession, the male narrator and the woman begin spending more intentional time together. Their connection deepens, yet the external and internal barriers remain. They are aware of how society might view them, and the age difference subtly influences their interactions. He is younger, full of curiosity and openness, while she carries experience and a measured approach to life. Rather than creating distance, this difference becomes a space for learning, admiration, and mutual respect. Their conversations now dig deeper into personal histories, hopes, and fears. She shares stories from her past, mistakes, lessons learned, quiet triumphs, and he listens with empathy and fascination. A, in turn, reveals his own uncertainties, ambitions, and emotional truths. These moments create a profound emotional intimacy, allowing them to connect on a level that transcends age. Their dialogue is natural, often punctuated by soft laughter or shared silence, revealing how comfortable they are together even without grand gestures. Sensory-rich details. As they walk together, his hand might brush hers, a fleeting touch that carries both warmth and acknowledgement of trust. She does not pull away, but instead allows the contact, subtle and meaningful, to linger. When they sit together, on a park bench, a quiet cafe, or a cozy living room, he notices the texture of her sweater, the gentle weight of her presence beside him, and the rhythmic cadence of her breathing. These small physical details amplify the sense of intimacy. The environment mirrors their emotional state. The soft rustle of leaves, distant city sounds, or the gentle hum of a cafe create a backdrop that is both serene and comforting, highlighting the emotional focus on one another. Their eyes often meet, conveying understanding without words. A simple glance holds reassurance, affection, and unspoken acknowledgement of the obstacles they face. Emotional goals. For the narrator, he begins to understand the depth of her world and feels both admiration and protective affection. A is drawn not just to her physical presence but to the wisdom and vulnerability she carries. The age difference is acknowledged, but it becomes part of the richness of their connection rather than a barrier. For the audience, viewers experience the tension between desire and societal or internal hesitation. They see that romance is more than fleeting attraction, it is built on understanding, respect, and patience. This deepens emotional investment and keeps the slow burn compelling. For the woman, she recognizes his sincerity, emotional maturity, and patience. His attentiveness allows her to let down her guard, creating a sense of safety and trust. The audience sees her negotiating vulnerability while maintaining her confidence. Narrative tip for YouTube script: focus on shared rituals and moments, quiet walks, casual touches, laughter, or simple gestures like handing over a warm drink. These moments highlight connection while respecting YouTube's safe boundaries. Use inner narration to show both characters, reflections on their differences and how these differences deepen rather than hinder their bond. Layer sensory details, touch, sound, scent, and spatial awareness, to make each moment feel intimate, immersive, and emotionally rich. After navigating emotional vulnerability, mutual awareness, and life's subtle barriers, the male narrator and the woman arrive at a point of emotional clarity. They understand each other's hearts and boundaries and are ready to share a moment that encapsulates the depth of their connection. Perhaps it is a quiet evening walk under the soft glow of street lamps, sitting together on a park bench listening to distant city sounds, or sharing a cozy moment.